Okay. I'm just zooming out for the recording. If you're joining the recording, I forgot to do the first part. It's just been that kind of day. We did letter E on our 1.6 notes. So if you go to your 1.6, we did letter E earlier. We're just doing the absolute value of x's. So if you have questions on that one, I can't explain it again. So let me know if you don't remember how to do that or if you missed it. But we just started letter D on number 2. So this is the original graph that was above that I just copied and pasted down. And we made a T table of it. As we just talked about on the last one, all of the positive x's are good. I'm going to graph these points exactly like they're written. So the whole right side is totally fine. I'm going to go graph those right now. The positive x's are fine. All right, so I graphed all the positive x's. Now to graph the negative x's, I'm gonna flip it over the y-axis, or you can look at all of the points and figure out what their new y is. So like if I'm at -1, the absolute value of -1 is +1, and the y value at +1 is 0. So this is another case where it's the same point. My y is still 0 because it's already just symmetric about the axis. The points that were originally given to us are just naturally symmetric. Same thing for -2. The absolute value of that would be +2, so its y value should be 1, which it already is. So it's just the exact same point it was because of the nature of this graph. It's the same y's, so I don't have to change it. I will change the next one though, so hopefully that will help us. For -3, normally my y should be 0, but if I do absolute value of -3, then I'm looking at the positive value, and so my new y should be 1, not 0. Okay, so that's the one new point I have, is it's not at, it's not at 0, it's at 1. So it's at -3, 1. So it's a complete symmetric about the y-axis. That was just us doing absolute value of x. Are we okay on that? You probably see though that we still have to flip it. We still have to flip my f of x. And when I flip it, it flips over the x-axis, so all my y's are multiplied by -1. So all my y's change their signs. I'm just going to graph this right on top of it. You are welcome to graph right on top of it, or you can erase or do it all in one step. I just tend to mess up if I don't do it in 2 different steps. So I'm just flipping across. So my 0, -2 switches to 0, +2. My intercepts stay the same, and then all my other points go to -1 as opposed to +1. So my new answer graph is the pink one. If you're on a test, you are welcome to write new and do 2 separate pictures, just so I know which one is the last one to grade. Or if you hate having that much clutter, you can erase and just have 1 picture on your graph. I'm gonna put my green graph back up though. Again, if you still feel a little confused, we're gonna do another like this in a second, so just kind of hang with me. This one was hard because, or it looked more challenging than it was because it's mostly symmetric graphs. These graphs are almost the same on both sides, so not a lot changed, so we might feel like a little crazy. You're like, I didn't really do anything. That's true. But we'll do an example in a second. Okay, any questions on these ones on the notes that we had originally skipped and now we're looking at? Okay, when you're done looking at this, I want you to go to the other sheet. The one that looks like this. And I know I might lose some of you because it's probably on your iPad, if that's okay. The cool thing about this sheet is at the beginning, it has these like transformation guides. So like I already gave you notes on this, but you are welcome to like look at this and also like use these as kind of a key to be like, okay, well, if it's like a negative on the outside, it means it's symmetric about the x-axis. Like we've already talked about that, but that's a nice reminder there. Or if it's like minus C at the end, it's moving down C unit. So I'm just kind of reminding you some of the important stuff. Okay.
Where can I find that this sheet?
Yeah, this is in your Schoology under week 9. So if you go to the organized by weeks folder, it pops down to say week 9, and then it says PC 1-6 notes.
Thanks.
Awesome. Everyone getting that? Okay. All right, I'm gonna start talking about it. I know some of you might be a little bit behind. That's okay. This is my original graph right here. So I have this graph, and as you can see, there are some points that are like more pronounced than other points, and those are the important ones that we're gonna focus on. So I'm making them like big and bold. As many points as I can get help me keep my graph like where it's supposed to be. If you only do like 1 or 2 points, sometimes it's hard to tell its shape. So I like to do ones on the axes and then the highs and the lows. I'm gonna label these and make a T-table so I can carry that with me. So I'm making a T-table. I'm gonna make it in black so that I'm able to see my changes based on like the new graph I do. So I've got points at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, -8, 0. I have a point at -4, 4. I have a point at 0, 0. I have points at 2, -2, at 4, 0, at 7, 3, and at 10, 0. I did that quickly because I literally just did that last period. If you have a hard time naming points, let me know. I think most of us who don't, so that's why I hustled through that. We can use this as we go along on our notes and decide what my changes are going to be. I will look at the one right next to it. No, I lied. I'm gonna go down and look at the one that looks like the ones we just did. Let's keep our brain fresh on what we were just doing. If you scroll down to the second page, there's one that says f of absolute value of x. That's exactly like what we just did. Second page. Everyone seeing that? Okay. I am going to do the absolute value of my x's. So just like we did last time, none of my positive ones there's a problem with. They're all good. I'm gonna go graph all of these like normal, and then I'm gonna reflect over the axis. So let's start by doing our normal points that are all good. I also don't know why these graphs don't have axes, so I'm just drawing them on there wherever. So your graph may look exactly like mine or a little bit different. I'm gonna graph 0, 0, 2, -2, 0, 4, 0, 7, 3, 10, 0. This side of the graph is perfect. It's the original one. I didn't have to change anything. It's all good. The other side is going to be an exact symmetrical version of it. If we wanted to think about it in terms of the points, we can still do that. I have a -4 here. If we're doing absolute value of my x, the absolute value of -4 is 4. So I'm gonna go down here and use that y. So my point is not at -4, 4, it's at -4, 0. And I know my other point is -8, and there's no -8 for us to correspond with. All of the other points are the same. So if I were to plug in like a -2, it would match to the +2. If I were to plug in -10, it would match to the +10. So I was able to put this one nicely on my graph to reflect this point right here. but I can go and reflect all of these over my axes like this. I can just be like, oh, I'm going to move this guy over my axes there. This one already moved there. This one will move over here, and this one will move somewhere around there. So we're just going to flip it over the axis. I got a point at -2, 2 to replicate the point that's at +2, -2. I have the point at -7, +3 to reflect the point at +7, +3. And I have a point at 10, -10, 0 to represent the point at 10, 0. You can think of this as reflecting the positive x's over the y axis. Whatever little like cutesy trick helps you know what's going on, use it. So that's what helps me. I'm like, okay, well, if I know what's on the positive x axis, I know I'm just gonna flip it right over to the other side. Okay? Any questions? I'm just gonna keep doing some. So I've got the one, let's do the one catty corner to it, the one that says y equals absolute value of f of x. Let's do another absolute value one, but this one's the absolute value of the y's. I think that one's easier. If we're doing the absolute value of the y's, then that means all of my y's must be positive. So anything that's negative, we're just gonna take off. So let's see, let's see if I can paste my, oh, heck yeah, there it goes. There's my t-table again. If it's a positive x, or sorry, if it's a positive y, it's fine. Fine, fine, fine. Oop, problem there. Fine, fine, fine. The only point that I have a problem with is this 2, -2, because it's a negative. I just make my negative a positive, and then I'm going to graph all of these points. I put my axis on the page, and then I go graph. Again, I've got a lot of the same points. When I do this, I like to graph my zeros first. There's no real reason. I just think it helps me center my graph. You are welcome to also do that. Oops, that point doesn't exist. And then I graph kind of my maxes and my mins, but I like to graph my zeros first. I think that helps keep everything in order. So I've got -4, +4. I've got 7, 3. And then instead of 2, -2, I have to write 2, +2. So I've got to go up here. These are all a bunch of peaks and valleys, but this is what that one looks like. The only thing that changed from the original was this part. It was negative, and I said, nope, and I flipped it. Any questions on those two absolute value ones? No? Okay, let's do some more. Let's do like, I don't know, this one right up here, one of the first ones. This one says y equals -f of x plus 2. So we've got two transformations here. I have to do something with that +2, and then that negative does something too. The +2 moves it left 2. For sake of time, I'm not really having you tell me, but I want you to think it in your head. If you said left 2, good job. And the negative flips my graph over. It flips it over the x-axis, flips it up and down. Like I've said before, like to do two graphs just because I'm afraid of messing up and I don't want to mess up. So I'm gonna probably do my left 2's and then I'm gonna flip it. So I'll do my left 2's in this orange. So I'm just gonna take all of these points in my t-table and move them to the left 2. If I move them to the left 2, that's as if I was adding, or not adding, sorry, minusing 2 from all of my x's. Instead of being at -8, I'm gonna be 2 to the left, which makes that -10. If it helps you, change your t-table and then we'll graph those points. This will be -6. That will be -2. That will be 0. That will be 2. That will be 5. And that will be 8. What makes you happy? Do that. I lost track of all my points. And then all right, that's if I move all of my points left 2. Now I want to flip them. It doesn't matter which order I had done this in, so you could have flipped them first and then moved them. From here, I'm just going to graph exactly my flips. If you flip it, that's like multiplying your y's by a negative number. So I can just go here and make all my y's negative. So that the 0 is fine. That's a good point. That will be -4. That's fine. That'll be a +2. That's fine. And that'll be a -3. You don't have to make a t-table. You don't have to do 2 graphs. You can do it all in one step. All I'm saying is that if you mess up, there's not a lot that we can work off of. So these are some tools to help you keep yourself in line as we do this. So I'm going to make this go down to -4. Make this go up to +2. Make this go down to -3. My points might be a little bit off. I'm going to be honest. I'm not sure. If this point I don't think is right. It needs to be over 1. That's my bad. You are welcome to keep them here, or if you hate this clutter, you can erase your other graph if you like doing 2, and then just leave this as your final one. Sometimes I like having 2, and then if I were like on the test and had 2 different pens, I would write like new in the pink. Or I'd say like new, and then I'd draw an arrow to that one. And then your teacher could follow along with which line you're talking about. Ooh, someone left a little early. We are not gonna get to all of these, but these are all really great practice. And if you need extra help, this is probably what I would do with you, is a lot of transformations like this. Transformations is not a spectator sport, and if you aren't practicing this, this will not go well when it's time for you to take the quiz, which I guarantee you there'll be at least 1 or 2 translations on versus a test. What you do need to have done is, I think your 1.5 was due today, and I think 1.6 will be due on, I don't know if I assigned that for tomorrow or not, but I'll take it by Thursday. So if you have it, you can turn it in by Thursday. It is about 2:20, so I will let you continue with the rest of your afternoon. But if you need a little bit of help with this, I'd encourage you to stay on and ask a couple questions so you don't get too much more lost. Okay? You need me?
Did you say 1.5 was due today?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody have any questions?